Before you decide this message isn't about you, let me ask you something. What if certain windows of time in a soul connection carry a different kind of energy than others? Moments when alignment, readiness, and timing all converge in a way that makes movement toward union significantly easier than it will be once that window passes. What if you're currently standing inside exactly this kind of window, and the pull you've been feeling, the restlessness, the sense that something needs to shift soon, is your own intuition recognizing that this particular opportunity for alignment won't remain in this exact form forever? Most people think of timing in relationships as something entirely outside their awareness, invisible until it's already passed. But many spiritual traditions, along with a growing body of understanding around energetic cycles and readiness, describe something more specific: recurring windows, sometimes called portals, where the conditions for significant relational movement become unusually favorable, followed by periods where that same movement becomes considerably more difficult, requiring far more conscious effort to achieve the same result. This does not mean union becomes permanently impossible once a specific window closes. It means that certain windows offer particular ease, particular alignment, particular momentum that later periods simply do not offer in the same way, requiring instead a longer, more effortful path to reach a similar outcome. Right now, if you've been sensing urgency, restlessness, or a persistent inner nudge that something important needs your attention soon, this may be exactly this kind of window making itself known to you. Not a countdown clock threatening permanent loss if you don't act perfectly and immediately, but a genuine invitation to recognize favorable timing and respond to it consciously, rather than letting this particular alignment pass by default, through inaction or continued avoidance. But before you let any sense of urgency turn into panic or rushed, anxious decision-making, there's something important to understand. This isn't a message asking you to force an outcome out of fear. It's an invitation to recognize genuine alignment when it's present, and to respond to it with clarity and intention rather than either passive avoidance or desperate, fear-driven action. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you understand timing, readiness, and the specific, conscious steps available to you during a genuine window of opportunity for union. Have you noticed a specific intensification lately? More synchronicities, more restlessness, a stronger inner pull toward a particular connection or direction than you've felt in a long time? This intensification is often exactly what a closing window feels like from the inside. The concept of energetic windows or portals describes recurring periods when specific conditions, personal readiness, external circumstances, and often, the parallel readiness of another person involved, align in a way that creates unusual momentum toward a specific outcome. This concept exists across many spiritual and cultural traditions, often described using different language, sacred timing, karmic windows, astrological alignments, but pointing toward a similar underlying idea: that time is not uniformly the same for every purpose, and certain periods genuinely offer more support for specific kinds of movement than others. It's worth understanding this concept with appropriate nuance rather than as a rigid, deterministic countdown. These windows are not typically single, absolute, one-time opportunities that, once missed, foreclose every future possibility permanently. More accurately, they tend to function as cyclical periods of heightened alignment, opportunities that recur, though often in different forms, at different points along a person's larger journey. Missing one specific window does not usually mean the entire possibility disappears forever. It generally means that achieving a similar outcome afterward may require more conscious effort, patience, and additional inner work than it would have required during the window of natural alignment itself. This distinction matters significantly, because language suggesting an absolute, singular, final opportunity can create unnecessary panic that often leads to worse decision-making rather than better outcomes. Genuine spiritual growth and healthy relational movement rarely benefit from decisions made purely out of fear or desperate urgency. They benefit from clarity, presence, and intentional action, even when that action needs to happen relatively promptly to take full advantage of favorable timing. If you've been sensing that a particular window is currently active in your life, related to a specific relationship, a broader pattern of readiness for love, or a significant personal transformation connected to your capacity for union, this sensing is worth taking seriously and responding to thoughtfully. But it should be met with grounded, intentional action rather than anxious, rushed decision-making driven by fear that this is truly your only remaining opportunity. There are several specific reasons why a current period might genuinely represent a significant window of alignment for union, reasons worth understanding with appropriate discernment rather than assuming every sense of urgency automatically indicates genuine, favorable timing. A significant personal transformation you've recently completed, healing a wound, releasing an old pattern, developing genuine internal security, often creates a window of heightened readiness precisely because your own internal state has shifted into greater alignment with the connection or outcome you're hoping to experience. This kind of window tends to feel significant because it reflects genuine internal preparation reaching a natural point of culmination, rather than an arbitrary external deadline imposed without any connection to your actual readiness. Parallel timing in another person's journey, whether a specific romantic connection or the broader readiness of potential partners you haven't yet met, can also create a genuine window of alignment. If someone significant in your story has recently completed their own significant inner work, their own healing or transformation, the convergence of your respective readiness can create a window of unusually favorable timing for connection or reconnect, one that may not remain equally open indefinitely if either person's circumstances or priorities shift significantly afterward. Broader life circumstances, transitions in career, location, or life stage can also create temporary windows of alignment, periods where practical circumstances happen to support significant relational movement in ways that may become considerably more complicated once those circumstances change. Recognizing these practical factors alongside more purely energetic or spiritual considerations offers a more complete, grounded understanding of why timing genuinely matters in specific situations. It's worth approaching your own sense of urgency with honest self-reflection, distinguishing between genuine recognition of favorable alignment and simple anxiety or impatience that exists independent of any actual shift in circumstances or readiness. Not every feeling of urgency reflects genuine, significant timing. Learning to distinguish between grounded recognition of real alignment and anxiety-driven urgency unrelated to actual circumstances is an important skill for navigating this kind of message without falling into unnecessary panic. Distinguishing a genuine window of alignment from simple anxious urgency requires attention to several specific, recognizable signs, rather than relying purely on a vague, generalized feeling of pressure. An increase in meaningful synchronicities specifically related to this particular connection or outcome is often one of the clearest signs of genuine alignment. Repeated encounters, relevant information arriving unexpectedly, or a pattern of small confirmations that seem to point specifically toward this particular direction, rather than a generalized sense of anxiety about your life more broadly, often indicates that a genuine window is actively supporting movement in this specific area. A felt sense of calm clarity, rather than anxious desperation, when you consider taking action toward this outcome is another significant sign worth paying attention to. Genuine alignment tends to feel like grounded readiness, a sense that action, even if it requires courage, feels right and timely. Simple anxiety, by contrast, tends to feel more frantic, more driven by fear of loss than by genuine, calm recognition of favorable timing. Recent completion of significant inner work relevant to this specific outcome is a meaningful practical indicator as well. If you've recently done genuine healing work around patterns that previously prevented this connection or outcome, an unhealthy attachment style, an unresolved fear, a limiting belief about your own worthiness, this recent completion often creates exactly the kind of window this message describes, your internal readiness reaching a point where external manifestation becomes considerably more supported and likely. External circumstances that appear to be aligning without excessive forcing on your part can also indicate genuine, favorable timing. Opportunities arising with relative ease, conversations happening more naturally, obstacles that previously seemed insurmountable suddenly appearing more manageable. These kinds of shifts often indicate that external circumstances are genuinely supporting the window you're sensing internally, rather than that window existing purely as anxious hope disconnected from any actual supportive change in circumstances. If you're noticing several of these signs together, meaningful synchronicity specific to this outcome, calm rather than frantic clarity about taking action, recent completion of relevant inner work, and external circumstances aligning with relative ease, these represent genuine evidence that you may indeed be standing within a significant, favorable window worth responding to with intentional, grounded action. Responding wisely to a genuine window of alignment involves specific, grounded actions, distinctly different from either passive avoidance, letting the window pass through inaction, or anxious, forced action driven purely by fear of missing this particular opportunity. Taking clear, honest communication with a relevant person, if this window relates to a specific existing connection, represents one of the most significant, grounded actions available to you. This might involve having a direct conversation about your feelings, your readiness, or your hopes for the connection moving forward. Communication offered from a place of genuine clarity and calm conviction rather than desperate urgency or fear-driven pressure placed on the other person to respond in a specific way or timeline. Continuing to actively embody your own readiness and healing, rather than assuming the window's arrival means your own inner work is now complete, remains equally important. Genuine alignment tends to be supported and reinforced by continued conscious effort, maintaining the healthy patterns, boundaries, and self-worth you've likely worked hard to develop, rather than abandoning that continued practice the moment external circumstances begin appearing more favorable. Taking practical, grounded action relevant to your specific circumstances, whether that involves making yourself more available or open to new connection if you haven't yet met the specific person your vision involves, or taking concrete steps within an existing relationship if that's the specific context this window relates to, supports genuine manifestation far more effectively than purely internal reflection disconnected from any actual external action. Releasing rigid attachment to the exact specific outcome or exact timeline, while remaining genuinely committed to taking clear, intentional action, allows space for this window to unfold in whatever specific form ultimately serves your genuine well-being, even if that form differs somewhat from your original, specific expectation. This distinction, clear intention paired with flexibility regarding exact method and timing, tends to produce far healthier outcomes than rigid attachment to one narrow, specific version of how this window must unfold. It's important to be genuinely direct about something significant. Responding to a sense of favorable timing with panic, desperate urgency, or rushed, poorly considered decisions tends to undermine the very outcome this message is describing, rather than supporting it. Decisions made from a place of fear or desperation, even when the underlying timing genuinely is favorable, tend to produce lower quality outcomes than decisions made from grounded clarity and intentional presence. Rushing to force a specific conversation, decision, or action purely out of fear that this window represents your absolute final opportunity often communicates anxiety and pressure rather than the genuine clarity and security that actually tends to support favorable manifestation. This is particularly important to understand if this message relates to an existing relationship or connection with another person. Approaching someone with desperate urgency, communicating pressure that this must happen now or it will never happen at all, often creates exactly the kind of anxious dynamic that tends to push people away rather than draw them closer, regardless of how genuinely favorable the underlying timing might actually be. It's worth remembering that even genuine windows of significant alignment do not require perfect, immediate execution to remain meaningful. Grounded, thoughtful action taken within a reasonable time frame, rather than either passive delay or panicked, immediate forcing, tends to honor the genuine spirit of favorable timing far more effectively than treating this window as an absolute, single-moment deadline requiring flawless, instant execution. If you notice yourself moving toward panic or desperate urgency in response to this message, this is worth pausing to address directly, perhaps through grounding practices, honest reflection, or conversation with a trusted friend or therapist, before taking any significant action. Genuine alignment is far better served by calm, clear intention than by anxious, rushed decision-making, regardless of how significant the underlying timing genuinely is. While recognizing and responding to favorable timing genuinely matters, it's worth understanding that your own internal groundedness and security ultimately matter considerably more than any specific external window, however significant that window may currently feel. A person who maintains genuine internal security and self-worth tends to navigate both favorable and unfavorable timing with considerably more wisdom and better outcomes than someone whose entire sense of stability depends on a specific window remaining open or a specific outcome manifesting exactly as hoped. This internal groundedness allows you to take meaningful, intentional action during genuinely favorable periods, while also maintaining your fundamental well-being and sense of worth even if a specific hoped-for outcome does not ultimately unfold as anticipated. This distinction matters because relationships and significant life outcomes built primarily on anxious urgency, even when that urgency responds to genuinely favorable timing, tend to be less stable than outcomes built on a foundation of genuine internal security that would remain intact regardless of this specific window's outcome. Continuing to invest in your own healing, your own sense of worth, and your own fulfillment independent of this specific situation ensures that whatever unfolds, favorable window or not, you remain someone capable of genuine, secure connection and continued growth. If you've been sensing that a significant window of alignment is currently active in your life, related to union, to healing, to a specific connection or a broader readiness for love, trust that sensing, and respond to it with clear, grounded, intentional action rather than either passive avoidance or anxious, forced urgency. This window, if it is genuinely present, deserves your thoughtful attention and meaningful response, but it does not require you to abandon wisdom, discernment, or your own fundamental well-being in pursuit of a specific outcome achieved through fear rather than genuine alignment. And should this specific window pass without the exact outcome you are hoping for, understand that this does not mean union or genuine connection becomes permanently impossible. Life continues offering meaningful cycles of alignment and opportunity to those who remain genuinely committed to their own growth and openness. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this message resonated with what you've been sensing, I hope it offered both validation for the genuine significance of this timing and grounded guidance for responding to it wisely rather than from a place of panic or desperate urgency. This has been the Archetype Awakening. I hope this video helped you recognize genuine alignment when it appears, and reminded you that the most powerful response to favorable timing is not frantic urgency, but calm, clear, intentional presence. Wishing you the wisdom to recognize genuine alignment, the courage to respond with clarity rather than fear, and the deep, grounded trust that whatever is meant for you will continue finding its way to you, in this window or the next one, as long as you remain committed to your own growth and openness. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.